cannot see that you will never take the being out of a human being. Leaving others bleeding whilst others lack feeding, yet we keep on reading and believing they're deceiving. But they cannot see that we're free, else we were always meant to be. Free to make a choice, free to have a voice, freedom from the violence, free to live in perfect silence, for rising or reason for treason. Rising or reason for misleading. And I's the only reason for freedom.
You're listening to the Edge Radio program, a show so hot, your radio might catch on fire.
Welcome back. My name is Andy Radford, and this is the Edge's Thursday show coming to you from the Edge's UK studio. There are many ways you can become involved with the Edge television broadcast. Just go to our website at www.theedgeam.com and look for all the information we have on offer. You can join our forum and submit an opinion and view, and we don't mind if you agree or disagree with the guest or the host. You can take part in the Edge's Edgepedia. We are trying to build a database of all the subjects the Edge covers. More interactive features you can become involved with. Take part in one of the Edge polls, which can be found on the left-hand side of the home page. Just go there and scroll down slightly. Why not download one of our own Edge screensavers? They're all free and they will enhance your computer. The Edge television broadcast is growing week by week and month by month. We are trying now to set up some new Edge broadcast channels, and the links will be placed to these on the home page. One of the new channels, which is about to go to air, will be the Edge's Music channel. At the moment it's called EBN Music. It's not live yet. Just keep checking back on the home page for updates. If you are a singer-songwriter and want to showcase your material, just get in touch with us here at theedgeam.com. Ideally, we would like to play material that fits in with the Edge radio broadcast genre. Okay, on to the decline of the US bird population. Many garden birds and birds of prey are falling victim to modern day society. Garden birds, the insectivores, the one that eat the insects from the flower, or the slug and the snail from the grass, are falling victim to man's pesticides and herbicides. Or when a person sprays an insect with pesticides, the insectivore, which is the bird that eats it, will eat the insect. This in turn will poison the bird because the insect is already poisoned with the pesticide. This is just one of the problems facing our garden birds today. Birds of prey are falling victim to gamekeepers and farmers who shoot them at will. Here is Edge Correspondent C.M. Leslie with her report on the decline of the U.S. bird population.
The population of nearly 24 American birds, the fifth-singing meadowlark, the rufous hummingbird, and the whippoorwill with its haunting call, are half what they were 40 years ago. The northern bobwhite and its familiar wake-up whistle once seemed to be everywhere in the east. Last Christmas, volunteer bird counters could only find 3 of them and only 18 eastern meadowlarks in Massachusetts. 20 different common birds, those with populations more than 500,000 and covering a wide range, have seen populations fall in at least half since 1967, according to a study by the National Audubon Society. The bird group compared databases from 550 species from 2 different bird surveys, its own Christmas bird count, and the U.S. Geological Survey's breeding bird survey in June. Some of the birds, such as the evening grosbeak, used to be so plentiful that people would complain about how they crowded bird feeders and finished off 50-pound bags of sunflower seeds in just a few days. But the colorful and gregarious grosbeak's numbers have plummeted 78% in the past 40 years. It was an amazing phenomenon all through the 70s that just disappeared. It's just a really dramatic thing because it was in people's backyard, and now they're not in people's backyard anymore. Many of the species in decline depend on grassy habitats that are disappearing because of suburban sprawl. Climate change and invasive species are to blame as well. Most of us don't expect any of these will go extinct. We just think we reflect on other things that are happening in the environment that we should be warned about. Audubon Board Chairman Carol Brown, a former U.S. Environmental Protection Agency administrator, called the bird's decline a warning signal. We are concerned. It's an emergency, but no, concerns can quickly become an emergency. Compared to 1967, there are 432 million fewer of these bird species, including the northern pintail, greater scaup, boreal chickadee, the common tern, the loggerhead shrike, the field sparrow, grasshopper sparrow, the snow bunting, the black-throated sparrow, the lark sparrow, the common grackle, the American bittern, the horned lark, the little blue heron, and the ruffled grouse. Things we all think as familiar backyard birds, they appear in books and in children's stories, and suddenly some of them are less familiar than they used to be. Sir John Fitzpatrick, director of the Cornell Ornithology Lab. The northern bobwhite had the biggest drought among common birds. In 1967, there were 31 million of the plump, ground-loving birds. Now they number closer to 5 million. If you look in the northeast, it's almost gone from New England and pretty much New York as well. In some cases, there are still plenty of birds left despite large, surprising drop-offs. The common grackle used to be as plentiful as people in 1967, with both human and grackle populations hovering around 2 million. Now the grackle population is down to 73 million, and humans are up to 300 million. But while these common birds are in decline, others are taking their place or either elbowing them aside. The wild turkey, once almost extinct, is growing at a number rate of 14% a year. The double-breasted cormorant, pushed nearly to extinction by the use of DDT, is growing at a rate of 8% a year, and populations of the pesky Canadian goose increase by 7% yearly. Many of the birds that are disappearing are specialists, while the thriving ones are generationalists that do well in urban sprawl and all kinds of environment. The robins, the Carolina wrens, the blue jays, the crows, these kind of birds are doing fine, thank you. They really get along in suburban habitats. Most of them even like city parks, so they are not as susceptible to the human changes in our environment. But nothing matches the takeover ability of one invading bird. Right now, the Eurasian collared dove is conquering America. A dove-like bird that first entered Florida in the 1980s, it is now the most prevalent bird in the Sunshine State and in more than 70 states. Soon you'll be seeing the Eurasian collared dove in any city in the world. Some of the most common birds seen and heard in America's backyard are becoming less frequent sight and sound in much of the United States. 20 common birds, including the northern bobwhite, the field sparrow, and the chickadee, have lost more than half of their populations in the past 40 years. These populations are not only endangered species, but it is noteworthy that we need to take steps to protect their habitat, said Carol Brown, Audubon chairman and former Environmental Protection Agency administrator. And the proverbial canary in the coal mine, the health of a region's bird population is often a harbinger of the health of other wildlife and human populations as well. The focus isn't really on what's happening to these 20 birds, but what is happening to their environment. The researchers say many factors play in the decline of bird numbers, including intensification of agriculture, other loss of habitat, pesticides, invasive species, and global warming. Today you can't find a bobwhite in Pennsylvania, and here in Whippoorwill is a sad time for us, he said at the news conference Thursday morning. The report shows the current northern bobwhite quail population is 5.5 million, down from 31 million in 1967. That's a decline of 82% in the past 4 decades. There are currently about 1.2 million whippoorwills now, down from 2.8 million only 40 years ago. The Audubon Society created this list of common birds in decline